evening, and you know what time it is. It's time for Armando's Black Top 5 SEC teams. This is going to be the last one for week 14, the final top 5 for week 14. Get your popcorn ready. I'm Armando Black, and this is the Dog Call. Good evening, and welcome to the Dog Call. I'm your host, Armando Black, and for the last time for this season, I will be doing a top 5 today. It's Monday, 48 hours removed from a bunch of chaos in the SEC. I had no idea that my rankings would look anything like what it's going to be looking today. A lot happened on Saturday night. A lot happened on Saturday, period. And these rankings look totally different than what I expected them to look today. So, and we're also going to do some playoff talk. We're going to have some playoff discussions. There are a couple of 3-loss teams that may be able to slide their way into the CFP playoffs. So, without further ado, we're going to get it rolling here. First things first, my SEC top 5 for week 14. And here we have it. Ladies and gentlemen, let me go over this ranking with you, and then I'm going to explain. Because one thing about me, I always give you an explanation and explain to you why I'm ranking these teams in a certain way. Okay, so at number 5, I have Ole Miss. Even though they lost the game to Florida, it was a very close loss. It was a close loss. It wasn't a blowout. Bama's was a blowout. Bama was a double-digit favorite. We kind of knew going into this game with the return of DJ Lagway, after the way Florida played against LSU the week prior to Saturday's game. We pretty much knew, and a lot of people were picking Florida to either upset Ole Miss or, take them deep into a 4-quarter game. So this wasn't too much of a surprise to a lot of people. But Ole Miss is still at number 5. They're still one of the top SEC teams in my book, and I still believe that they are a playoff team. Their playoff hopes are not gone completely. I know we had written them off Saturday night. We gave them the slow walking, sad singing on the post-game show. But because of the events that happened later on that night, Ole Miss is pretty much still alive. But there are a couple of things that need to happen this weekend. At number 4, Texas A&M, another team that lost a very close game in Jordan Hare. And I told everyone that was a tough place to play in. That is one of the toughest one of the toughest environments to play in. It is so loud in that stadium. The fans are sitting on top of you. The fans are sitting on top of you. So that makes that stadium so difficult to play in if you are a visiting team. If you are a visiting team, you are going to catch pure ID hell. Uh, Going into Jordan Hare, especially at night. And also, you got to factor in it was senior night. So Auburn came in with so much momentum. But Texas A&M came back. They got behind 21 to nothing, but they came back. They fought 4 overtimes, and they came up short against Auburn. I still think Texas A&M is still one of the best teams, one of the best top 5 teams in the SEC. That's why I have them ranked number 4. They're playing a winner-take-all game against the Longhorns on Saturday night. That and the winner goes to Atlanta to face my Georgia Bulldogs in the SEC championship game. At number 3 is the Tennessee Volunteers. Out of all the teams that are on this in these rankings, the Tennessee Volunteers are sitting the prettiest because all they have to do is take care of business against Vanderbilt. All they have one job to do, and that's win one game, take care of business against Vanderbilt, and they are in the playoffs. 9 times out of 10, they will be hosting a playoff because of their strength of record, and they have some damn good losses. Well, Arkansas, that was on the road, but it was a close game, and they lost in Athens to my Georgia Bulldogs, which is a top 10 ranked team. So, and they have, remember, they have a victory over Bama. They have a win over Bama. So they're, and they also have a win against NC State, and they have a win against Oklahoma, which that win is also right now all of a sudden looking a little better on the resume. So these Tennessee Volunteers, which in my opinion, I think they are locked in the playoffs as long as they take care of business Saturday and don't have any hiccup in Nashville against Vanderbilt. They should be able to take care of Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia is not the same as he was when they upset Bama. He's banged up. He's been dealing with some injuries. So that's going to be a difficult task at hand. Vanderbilt has been hit with a few injuries the last couple of weeks. Tennessee is getting healthier. They are getting healthier, and they didn't give up any points on Saturday. So this team is going to be clicking on all cylinders. They have another chance to get to the playoffs, another chance to get to the playoffs. And I don't think that this Tennessee team is going to have any more hiccups. Because you know how it is when you get a second chance to do something great. When you fail at it the first time and you have a second chance to do something great, you're going to put all of your efforts into that second chance. It's Tennessee, and they had no idea that they would be in the playoffs when they had no idea. Now, Florida beating Ole Miss still did not guarantee them a spot necessarily. It did not really guarantee them a spot. Ohio State beating Indiana did not guarantee them a spot. What really guaranteed Tennessee a spot in the playoffs was when Oklahoma beat down Bama later on that night, and Auburn upsetting Texas A&M. Those two right there put Tennessee right back in it, and as a host team, and also BYU losing as well. So Tennessee is my number 3 team. At number 2, another team right now that I think is playing long as they take care of business, as long as they take care of it, because their schedule is so weak and is so soft. They had a soft schedule. The only real ranked opponent that they saw this year was Georgia. Now, Unfortunately, Michigan is not who we thought they were going to be. They had scheduled Michigan. These schedules are made out like 2, 3 years in advance. So when this schedule was made out, remember coming into the season, a lot of people was picking Michigan to be a playoff team. So this was no one really saw that Michigan was going to fall off like this. So you can't really penalize Texas for scheduling an out of conference game with Michigan because remember they came into the season as the reigning defending national champions. You got to give them that credit. But I have Texas at number 2 based on two things. They haven't really beat anyone this year. They haven't really been, the only time they were really tested was against my Georgia Bulldogs, and they failed that test. Not only did my Georgia Bulldogs beat them, but my Georgia Bulldogs pretty much dominated the game the entire 60 minutes. So therefore, I can't put them in front of Georgia. Not with a straight face. I cannot put them in front of Georgia. Georgia flat out dominated that game and dragged in Austin, went down to Austin and dragged them for 60 minutes. And with all of that being said, with Carson Beck had a terrible game that night. 3 interceptions and under 200 yards passing. He had a terrible game. The offense, the only bright spot on the offense was Trevor Etienne. And with all of that being said, with Georgia being one-dimensional on that night, they still won the game decisively. So how can I put them in front of Georgia? I can't. At number 1, my Georgia Bulldogs. Talk about the luck of the draw. Now, if you're a Georgia Bulldog, I think the only people that actually watched the UGA UMass game, well, you had to be a Dogs fan. No one else watched that game on the SEC network. Um, Georgia fans, the offense played magnificent, but the defense, they need their ass kicked because they played, especially in that first half, they played like crap in their first half. And I was on the phone. Me and Sniper, we was talking at halftime, and I was saying, man, we keep playing like this, that committee is gonna find any reason. They're looking for any reason to drop us down in the polls. I think if there wouldn't have been no chaos, no upset or anything like that, we would probably be on the bubble come Tuesday night into with these rankings. But lo and behold, because with the help of Florida, and I know that sounds strange, but Florida beating Ole Miss helped Georgia out tremendously. Tremendously. Arizona State beating BYU helped Georgia out tremendously. Oklahoma beating the brakes off of Bama. Not because usually when Bama lose, let's just be honest, everyone. Usually when Bama lose, with the exception of the Santa Clara massacre. I think that's what it was. Well, you know what happened in Levi Stadium in 2018 in the national championship game. The Santa Clara massacre. With the exception of that game, Bama never got their ass kicked like that in the Saban era. It was if Bama lost, it was either by a field goal or a touchdown or some missed field goal or some lucky fluke play like the prayer and Jordan Hare or something like that. Or, a couple of times LSU pulled off some miracles. You had Joe Burrow, even with that year, Joe Burrow and LSU beat Bama. And LSU had a big lead. Bama came back. And LSU only really won that game by a touchdown. So Bama don't take ass whoopings like that too often, but they took an ass whooping Saturday night. So in the matter that Bama lost, and also what played a huge part was Ohio State beating Indiana down. Everything that needed to happen for Georgia happened for Georgia. Everything, every kind of scenario that you can think of that needed to happen, the teams that Georgia needed to lose lost. Texas A&M was just a bonus, just a bonus, because just in case Georgia Georgia loses the SEC championship game, Georgia may still be able to slide in as a 10-3 team. A three-loss team can slide in as a 10-3 loss team. I don't know about 9-3, but 10-3, I think is a strong possibility. So there you have it, everyone. Those are my top five rankings. Ole Miss, in my opinion, and let's speak on Ole Miss here. Ole Miss, in my opinion, they need a couple of things to happen. They need a couple of things to happen. First things first, they need Syracuse to upset Miami. They need South Carolina to beat Clemson. What would really help Ole Miss is Vanderbilt upsets Tennessee. I think that right there alone would put Ole Miss right back in it. But just to be on the safe side, because this committee, I think they are not SEC friendly. I don't know who selected these people on this committee, but they're not SEC friendly. So if Clemson beats South Carolina, which could happen now, if Clemson beats South Carolina, and let's say they beat them by 10 or more points, let's say they beat them by multiple scores, they may decide to put Clemson in over Ole Miss or two. We never know. I mean, but let's just look at Ole Miss's resume here. Okay, they lost to Kentucky, a close game to Kentucky. They lost on a fourth down play to Kentucky. They lost in overtime to LSU. And Saturday, let's not forget they were without Trey Harris. If they would have had Trey Harris, I highly doubt if Florida would have beat Ole Miss. I'm just being totally honest. Ole Miss was hit with injuries going into that game. All right. Bama was at full strength. They had no excuse. What happened to Bama on Saturday night? There was no damn excuse. Bama had one job to do. All they had to do was beat two unranked teams. One on the road, one at home. Oklahoma and Auburn. That's all Bama had to do. But they came out flat. They took Oklahoma lightly. They just they played like garbage. They played like hot garbage. And there's no excuse. I can't think of any excuse for them because they were at full strength. Ole Miss was without Trey Harris. You have to take that into consideration, and I hope this committee takes that into consideration. If Miami slips up or Clemson slips up, or even if both of them slips up and a spot does come available, I feel like that spot should go to Ole Miss. Here's why, and I know a lot of people are hollering South Carolina. Some people are putting South Carolina in their top five. How the hell you gonna put South Carolina in over Ole Miss when Ole Miss beat the brakes off of South Carolina? They went into William Bryce and beat the brakes off that same South Carolina team, 27-3. The game wasn't even close. All right, they beat the brakes off of South Carolina. So head to head has to matter. Head to head here has to matter. So I don't see how anybody that knows any damn thing about football would put South Carolina in their rankings over Ole Miss. Explain this to me like a 10-year-old. Hmm? And I don't understand how anyone over at ESPN would even consider putting Alabama in over Ole Miss when Ole Miss has the better resume. They have better wins, in my opinion. Let's look at it. Let's look at the telltale, okay? They beat the brakes off South Carolina. and they beat the brakes off my Georgia Bulldogs. There was no fluke, no help from the referees. They straight up for 60 minutes kicked our asses. And I can't do. They humbled us. They humbled us. I think that was the best thing that happened to our season. That ass whipping that Ole Miss put on my Georgia Bulldogs. So that is why I would say this Ole Miss team should get in before Bama or South Carolina, in my opinion. A&M, everything is still in front of you. All you have to do is take care of business in Kyle Field, and then go to Atlanta and try to beat my Georgia Bulldogs, which I highly doubt. I think it's going to be a good game, and I'm a little nervous about Marcel Reed and that read option, those read option plays that they run. But when you got a Kirby Smart and the staff that he's bringing, like Will Muschamp and Glenn Schumann, when you and this offense is clicking on all cylinders, this offense is clicking on all cylinders. It's like Carson Beck. All of a sudden, that light switch has went on. It has went on. And I think it has a lot to do with Morgan Freeland being at left tackle. Notice how Carson Beck's numbers have risen since Morgan Freeland has been put at left tackle, and Ernest Green, Kirby Smart pulled Ernest Green ass out. Big difference. Tennessee is a playoff team. Tennessee is a playoff team. As long as they don't choke to Vanderbilt, they are a playoff team. And in my opinion, they'll be a host playoff team. That's my opinion. Now, I don't know what the rankings is going to look like tomorrow night. When they do the rankings tomorrow night, then we'll come back and we'll revisit this. But in my opinion, I think Tennessee is going to be a host team. And more than likely, they'll be hosting probably Indiana in the first round, or the ACC loser, the loser of the ACC championship game. Strong possibility. Texas, everything is still in front of them. All they have to do is it's going to be a tall order. They got to go into Kyle Field, and this is the thing for Texas. Texas, if they lose that game, then I don't know what the committee is going to do with them, because people are kind of looking at them the same way they're looking at Indiana. It's like, you know, where's the beef? Where's the beef? There's no beef on your schedule, meaning a legitimate ranked opponent, a top 10 or at least a top 15 win on your schedule. It's not there. So if we're going to look at Indiana in that way, then we if and only if the Longhorns lose to Texas A&M Saturday, it's all fair. It's more than fair that we start looking at Texas the same way. And that number one, my Georgia Bulldogs, because they're already clinched a spot in the SEC championship game. They finished 6-2 in the SEC. They have Georgia Tech Saturday. And I'm going to speak on that in another video. But, at first I was a little worried. Oh, man, are they going to be focused for Georgia Tech? But after hearing Kirby's press conference, I have no worries. He is laser focused on this game with Georgia Tech. Laser focused. So I'm going to keep it on Georgia Tech the rest of this week. I know a lot of you want me to talk more about the playoff scenario and Texas or Texas A&M or Blase. No, I'm going to listen. I am focused on Georgia Tech. We as Dogs fans, the intensity and the emotions, the same energy that we put in to that week with Tennessee, we need to put the same energy into this with Georgia Tech because this team, this is their Super Bowl. This is Georgia Tech Super Bowl. They would love nothing more than to ruin our season. And we cannot give them that satisfaction. Because if you think Florida fans run their mouth a lot, those Georgia Tech fans are the worst. They are the worst. And I damn sure don't want to hear their mouth because when they looked up and beat us in 2016, all year we had to hear that. All for 365 days we had to hear it. They run their mouth so much, those midtown clowns. That's what I call them. Midtown clowns. That's what they are. But I'm not really worried about them. They have my attention. But just because they have my attention don't mean that I'm not the least bit concerned about them. Oh yeah, I am. But everyone, uh, let me know what you think. Leave a comment in the comment section. Do you agree? Like I said, Ole Miss, they lost, but they lost close. They lost a close game. They didn't get blowed out. Texas A&M, they lost a close game. They didn't get blowed out. And let me remind you now, this Auburn team, and I've said this all year, this Auburn team is a hell of a lot better than what their record says. They kind of remind me of Kansas. As a matter of fact, Florida and Auburn are they're not a team that too many people, I bet Penn State wouldn't want to go to Jordan Hare right now and play Auburn. I guarantee you Indiana would not want to go down to Jordan Hare or go to the swamp and play Florida right about now. I guarantee you Notre Dame would not want any parts of Auburn or Florida right now. So I give Ole Miss and Texas A&M the benefit of the doubt because they lost close. Texas A&M lost in 4 overtimes. Ole Miss lost on the 4th down play. They just Jackson Dart he just had a bad 4th quarter. But they didn't get dragged for 60 minutes like Bama did. Bama don't need to be nowhere near no damn playoff discussion. They are not a playoff team. And I've been saying this all season. They are not a playoff team. So there's that. So everyone, just let me know in the comment section, what do you think? Do you agree? This is it. This is it. The final top 5 of the season. This is it right here. Because next week we'll be talking about the SEC championship game. But this is the final rankings right here. At number 1, my Georgia Bulldogs. At number 2, the Texas Longhorns. At number 3, the Tennessee Volunteers. At number 4, the Texas A&M Aggies. And at number 5, outside looking on the inside, but still has a little slimmer of hope of getting in the playoffs, those Ole Miss Rebels. So everyone, I want to thank you all for coming out. Make sure you hit that like button, share the video, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. And you also hit that notification bell so you can get all the notifications of this great content that we're bringing to you over here. So, hey, I'm curious to see what the committee is going to do tomorrow night. Are they finally going to stand on business and give us a real ranking? Because that last week was nothing but a clown show. Nothing but a clown show. But I also said everything will work itself out. Everything would eventually manifest itself. And it did. It actually did. So a couple of teams got exposed last Saturday. So who knows? Will we have some more chaos this coming weekend? We'll see. But everyone, make sure you hit that like button. Enjoy the rest of your Monday evening. And like I always say, take care of yourselves and each other. And at the end of the day, no matter what, win, lose, or draw, it's going to always be Go Dogs. Sick 'em. Woo, 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 woo. This has been a Dog Call on Armando Black. Enjoy the rest of your Monday evening.